Welcome back, everybody. How is everybody tonight on this thirsty Thursday? I just couldn't help myself. I thought I would have Buckleboy come back in at least one more time for the spring, uh, and I would give everybody in here an opportunity to send in some pictures of relics, whether it be something you want identified. Maybe he has the gist on it and can kind of even though you may know what it is, might be able to help break it down a little bit further. So I thought it'd be a good idea to chill in here tonight and would drop out and see if anybody want to send any pictures. If you want, drop them to me on my Facebook Messenger. If you don't have that, or if we're not hooked up that way, the email is going across the bottom of the screen or the top of the screen if you're on vertical. So, and if you notice that I have to put these glasses on because it's getting a little bit tougher to see. I think age is setting in a little bit. So I gotta have these readers on some to make sure that I get to keep up with you all. But we're gonna chill out tonight. We're gonna talk relics, metal detecting, anything good about spring. You guys can hit up topics if you like. Mr. Plummer and myself, I'm sure we will gladly chat about anything metal detecting or anything you can dream up. So without further ado, the one, the only Buckleboy.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for having me tonight.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun because, we sit back and we go through, and I go through your book quite frequently now. So it's become like the coffee table book of the house. Was that ever kind of the intention, to be on every metal detector's coffee table?
Well, I mean, it's a pretty book. It's like I wanted it to be visually attractive so that people could, because we all know that there's those relic books that are just like eye candy, and then there's those relic books that are just kind of dry, and I wanted it to be the one that people would be proud to leave laying around.
So I have that one on there on the coffee table, and then the other one that I have out is I can't think of the name of it right at the moment, but it's that treasure book from about 2 years ago where the guy put all the caches in the United States and everybody's trying to find them. By the way, nobody's found those caches yet, and I do have a friend that's hot on the trail of one. But those are the two books that I have out, and they were both done so very well that when anybody comes to the house, I want them to see them.
Really cool.
I'm going to say hello to a few folks in here right now because I haven't had a chance to do that, but I'm going to go through really fast because an hour goes by so quick anymore. But Patrick's in here earlier, making stupid people famous. God, I love that name. What's up, Brian Ollier? How are you, sir? FL Thunder digging with Rob. How are you? Miss Georgianne. Oh yeah, the storm will be here around 3 a.m. So I'm ready for that, prepared. Hopefully no damage tonight. And Mud, hello. Who that guy right there? Look at that. That's a Buckleboy. Also, I'll post up again any relics you want to Buckleboy look at today or identify. Send them via Messenger or my Gmail. Little penny coins. JSP, what's up, brother? Right there, Johnny Smallpepper. Mr. Hawthorne, Kevin Hawthorne, Lakeland, Florida's finest. Wait a minute. Rumor has it, because we made it up, that Shane is giving away gold bars. Man, bro, if I had some gold bars, I wouldn't be giving them away. Wish I had enough to give away. Papa Rouse liked and shared. If anybody has the ability and wants to share this thing out, it would be great. I would take it any day of the week. And I see some people are starting to send in some messages, so that ought to be good. Marty Verstal, what's going on? Hello, hello. Keep hitting me with those pictures. I like pictures. Let's see who else we got here. Going to move a little faster now. Relic Reaper, Mr. Don, how are you, good sir? Yo, what up, Zaxton? Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a hot minute. Carrie Holderreed, thank you. I can still read with my glasses off, but man, I'm telling you what, it's getting tough. What is up, Trevor? 513 Diggs is in the house. Thank you, brother. So have you I mean, spring probably comes really early down there where you're at. You've been out hitting the fields lately?
Yeah, it's already like 80 something degrees, 85 degrees down here. So it's already getting to that point where it's not as comfortable to go, but I mean, we dig year round down here because the ground doesn't freeze. So, that's a blessing, but then the summer is a bit of a curse.
Yeah, I imagine it gets pretty dry. I we the wife and I used to frequent East Texas a lot, and it can get pretty hot. What's up, Relic Rat? Hello. You do a lot of farm field hunting. So, what do you change in the summertime? Do you still have fields you can hunt in the summer? What do you do in the summertime?
Yeah, actually, we dig year round, but part of it is because I have so much acreage that I can always find a spot somewhere, and it's just about the plowing and the harvesting schedule. So there's always something that's ready to go. It's just a matter of figuring out whether that field has anything or not. And sometimes we just go out and scout fields that are ready to go. And a lot of it depends on the farmer's schedule. It depends on the plow cycles. It depends on because they still plow down here. So that really helps things a lot. So that means that you get, years and years out of a spot instead of just, 5 hunts or something.
So agriculturally down there, what is the primary crop that's in your fields?
Well, the biggest crops are in sort of the mid part of Louisiana. We got a lot of soybean, a lot of corn, and we get a little bit of cotton in some areas, and then we get largely sugarcane in the south.
So I've never been around sugarcane being farmed. How does that play out? What's the harvest cycle for that?
It's the plow cycle is about once every 3 to 4 or even 5 years. And so the sugarcane grows. Basically, they plant it and they lay it down in berms. So you look and the whole field has a grid pattern on it. And those berms, they basically lay down the sugarcane stalks. It's kind of like bamboo, so it like sprouts out of every joint. So they lay down those stalks in those rows, and then they cover them back up. And that's usually like July or so, kind of summer. It's the time of year when you don't really want to be out in the heat. And so they'll lay those down in the rows, and then they sprout out, and then they cut it until the yield is too low on the sugar, and then they plow it all up. And sometimes there's an intervening soybean crop or something in between before they go back to sugarcane again. But that's kind of the life cycle of those fields.
Yeah, that's the one thing. I mean, everything is really cut and dry here. I get until like early May when they plant, and then late September, early October, I get the fields back, usually about the time it's getting to the point where it's wet or cold. But we have 2 crops and it rotates. Sometimes we get lucky and some farmers will take a year off and like do winter hay or whatnot. But other than that, it's pretty much the same year round.
Is it mainly corn and soybeans up there?
Yeah, they alternate every year.
Mm-hmm. When I lived in Kentucky and was around southern Indiana and stuff, it was very similar.
So where did you live when you was in this area?
Yeah, I lived in central Kentucky for a while. I lived in Louisville for a while, and then I dug a lot of some in southern Ohio, some in northern Kentucky, some in central Kentucky, and then some in southern Indiana.
Wow, I'm going to tell you. I mean, I've followed the river all the way from Cincinnati to Evansville. So southern Indiana still has some really good stuff to find if you know what you're looking for. I didn't realize that so were you from this area?
No, I actually was from Virginia originally, and then I was a transplant there, and then I ended up in Louisiana, about 15 years ago.
Wow.
So I found a lot of good stuff in southern Indiana and the outskirts of Louisville and central Kentucky, a lot of Civil War stuff. There were a lot of people that would just tell me, oh, the Civil War camps and everything's hunted out, but I found picket posts and I found, veterans houses and all kinds of stuff. I ended up with a big collection of stuff from from those places.
So we have a General Butler, which is it's the state park where I live. Actually, it's right next door to my house, and the house that that they built in the 1860s for him is I can see it out my front porch. Right, it's right across the street. So that state park is completely off limits. And there's a church right next to it, and then there's a field, and in that field right over there, that was supposed to be Civil War camps. Well, I got the person will not let anybody on it, right? He's just that way. So I'm sitting here staring at a lot of history, and then come to find out that the General Butler's house the house that he had before that they built him the one on the state land is up here in town as well, and the guy won't let nobody dig there either. So, and that was beforehand. And so I've got a couple places that I would really like to go that have had military on site, and I can't get on them, and it drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I think there's always those spots where it's like, do you really? I mean, will you ever get to hunt it? The answer is probably no. Especially if it's protected land, the answer is certainly no. But in this hobby, it's like there's so much out there that it's like you got to just mentally move on and focus on finding the next field, because I mean, you could find stuff that's so much better, even perhaps than the spots that you think are really good. Because the spots that you think are really good, everybody else probably thinks are really good too, or has for some time.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when everybody's kind of combing through the same resources for identifying old property and stuff like that. So yeah, you're right. I've had my eye set on like some properties, and listen, I still have a farm field that had a fort on it, and I know exactly where the fort sit. And the only thing we found from that fort was old flat buttons. We never found anything military, and I go dig it every year, and I get disappointed every year. I mean, the house that was sitting next to it, I've gotten stuff off it every single time I go out there. But this fort was from 1815. It was a Buchanan from the Revolutionary War. They sent him out here to fend off some Indians while a new post office in town was being built, and they built this fort. And to this day, I go out there every year in hopes of finding some early 1800s military relic, and every year I leave disappointed. And I know something has to be there. It has to be. I just can't find it.
Yeah, that's a shame. There's a lot of those sites where you get your hopes up, and you just it's crazy. The hobby is really psychological, and I'd like to do a live stream at some point. We talk about the psychology of the hobby, because that's the stuff that gets us fired up. It's the stuff that gets us disappointed. It's the stuff that can make a newbie quit the hobby. It's got there's a lot of different aspects to the psychology of the hobby that either keep us going or discourage us, and a lot of times that happens while we're out digging. So it's fascinating to me.
Well, just perspective is that, and I don't mean to stereotype anybody, as an individual, but metal detectorists, primarily tend to be people that are very hyper focused. They're mostly kind of loners. This whole social era of metal detecting, because of the internet, is fairly new. But most people that you see are always by themselves, or being quiet in a corner of a park, or we're not. And so you would think that that it's just one of those things for people that are kind of antisocial in a way, to get out and have a hobby, that don't want anybody bothering them and stuff like that. But kind of learned that through social media that a lot of us are very similar in personality, and we all get along pretty well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think that hyper focus can be a blessing or a curse in this hobby. It's the thing that keeps us in that field long enough to find something amazing, or it keeps us there all day when maybe we should have moved along, 5 hours ago. So, or only hunted there once or twice instead of 10 times because we were convinced, right? So it's a double-edged sword, I think.
Yeah, like I said, I go out there with the same intention every year. I'm digging signals that I wouldn't normally give that much attention to. I know that because, like I said, I don't turn the iron off on my detector. I turn the volume on the iron down because I want to hear it grunt. And then sometimes I'll get that little hint of a high tone, and I know it's nothing. And I know that it's going to be, some fragment of iron, that the way that it hit the detector, that it made it sound that way, square nail, whatnot. But I still dig those signals because, there's going to be one of those times that it's going to pay off in that field.
Well, it's also that psychology of like we know what was there. Like if we've ever dug anything good there, then we're back. Like we're back and we're back again, and so there's that element of like almost an addictive quality to the hobby. But later on, somebody may hunt that same spot, and they are not going to know what's already been found. So
Yeah.
as sites start to get depleted, and they get more and more thin, it's the type of thing where you have to use other clues besides what you've just dug or what you dug on a previous trip to let you know what might be there.
Oh man, Ed, thank you. Love you too, my friend. Ohio River History and West Shore Hobbies, rock the house. Yeah, I'm super fired up. But I'm going to tell you something. These pre-made websites from places like Weebly and Square, they do nothing but tick me off because things don't work the way they're supposed to. So it's still a work in progress, Ed. But thank you for the nice comment, and I'm getting there. Yeah, I have a bunch of places like that, and then I, the early 2000s. If you were out detecting then, and there wasn't really a lot of people that were really in the hobby then, but boy, it really picked up around COVID, and a lot of people do a lot of digging anymore. So it's gotten to where it's gotten a little tougher. Talking with Brian, we pound research, and we look for diamonds in the rough, places that we can go out and find stuff. Uh, but it is getting tougher because every place that you've drove down the road and you stop and knock on a door and ask, well, it's already been dug 15 years ago, and there's probably nothing left, so I don't know that I want you here. But there's a lot of homesteads that are still out there that haven't been touched.
And there's a lot of places that really, they were never on a map. Like you just like intuition finds so many things too. And I've been in situations where I'm just wandering, just because I like that meditative kind of quality of the hobby where you just kind of flatline. I call it flatlining, where you're just out there enjoying the day, and it doesn't matter, in that moment what's found or not found. But I'll just be wandering and I'll just hear a little faint blip of nails, or I'll just think, maybe there's something around in here, or something will make me turn a certain way. So there's this stuff too that I really can't explain in the hobby, that it's almost like you're meant to find something sometimes, if that makes sense.
It's ironic though, because a lot of times when you go out to early in the morning, when you first get to a place, you're more apt to find that really good signal early in the day as opposed to later in the day, because at a certain point you either get frustrated, or you get tired of digging the same hey, I'm not digging a 32 anymore today because I'm sick of these pull tabs on my legend or whatnot. And then you miss a really good you might miss something really good by not digging those targets. But yeah, I like finding stuff early in the morning, get my day started off right. But I've learned to cut ties with the site if it's not panning out too early, especially if I have the ability to come back.
Well, I also think the opposite thing can be true, right? Like if you get something really good and then you're just sloppy, it's like I find a lot of times when I find something really amazing, I got to say, okay, I need to slow down. I need to take my time. I need to take a breather, relax, get my pulse rate back down, because then I'm just jumping all around everywhere. And usually that's when the finds tank.
Yeah, we're like kids though, for sure. And Bree says it's much easier to socialize with like-minded people. Proud geek here. Absolutely. Socially antisocial is kind of my definition of myself. I like to talk, and I like to be heard, and when I'm in a place of comfort, I'm really social. But once you get me in around people that I don't know, a lot of the times, like I do tend to clam up just a little bit. So I'm socially antisocial, but that's what I love about the community here. Everybody is pretty like-minded, and and who doesn't want to talk about and find treasure? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
we talk about digging a lot. What's something that you kind of been looking for here lately? What is something in the last couple of years that's kind of eluded you that you're trying to find?
Well, there've been a couple of spots. One of the spots that I was trying to find was a certain plantation site where I've been after it now for, I don't know, like 5 or so years, just like trying to get permissions. And I think now that the property that I really need to be on is the property that I don't have permission for yet. I just can't catch the owner. It's the type of thing where it's like a gated long driveway and you got to like catch the guy at home and then he's never home when I drive up there and figure it out, you know? So there's sites like that where I'm like, I'm after the site and I just haven't gotten it yet. But that's probably the one that's eluded me the most. And then there's the gold coin. I mean, I saw a post online that, post your gold coins. And I said, well, my gold coins are shown below. And then I didn't post anything because I have none. So that's kind of my white whale. And I know it'll happen sooner or later, or it won't. It's just like I found things that I would rather have than a gold coin, to be honest. And I've been really blessed by a lot of the things that I've dug over the years. I've been in the hobby. I will have been in the hobby 39, 40 years coming this December. So that's a long time.
Man, that is a long time. I had a nice hiatus in the middle there before I got back. We do have a picture that's been posted up by Randy Riddle. He wants you to look at it. Has no idea what it is, and here we go.
Oh, wow. Huh. I wonder what size that thing is. And I also wonder if the back of it or the other side of it is countersunk or not.
Hey, Randy, if you have any other photos of it, can you give us some perspective on the size? It's kind of hard to tell with the background being the way that it is, and maybe flip it over a little bit. I mean, initially, the first thing you think of, right, and it's not what it is, but it's got the same kind of similar design as a hem weight.
Yeah, it does. I wondered if it might also be some sort of weird buckle, if it had any sort of design features, or if it was the right size, like if it was decorated on the other side. Yeah, Marty says some sort of a sash buckle. Yeah, that's was kind of my thought.
It's definitely definitely would have sounded good on the metal detector. It looks like it's probably some kind of brass.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been a banger for sure. What up, Charlie? DIB in the house. Yeah, like I said, Randy, if you have any more photos of that, send them over, and we'll definitely put them back up and look again.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
All right,
go. Everybody, I love about this hobby, though, you're never gonna ID everything. It's endless. It's totally endless. Hey, Mainly.
What's up, Rob? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, like I said, that was the assumption today. I thought I'd get everybody to go digging in and find some of the stuff that they have no idea what it is, but never had the heart to throw it away or file it away. I got places I got stuff like that everywhere too. But yeah, let's see what else we can come up with here today. Also, just really quick, I wanted to take a minute to thank Mark from Two Brothers Treasure for the Whole Shot Sportswear store sending me the shirts. I absolutely have been wearing them like almost nonstop. Mark is always super good to the channel, and he always sends me stuff from his website. So if you get a chance to stop by Whole Shot Sportswear store, he's got a really cool line. Mark's magnet fishing down there in Florida, so I just wanted to shout him out really quick and thank him again for the hookup, because these two shirts that he sent me, I've been wearing just about everywhere. People have some great ideas, man. I'm telling you. Let's see. I'll check the email, see if anybody's forwarded anything that way. Oh yeah. So we got a couple. Let's see what Randy posted here. Oh. Let's see, get that brought up. Yeah, this one is the a really good one. Everybody's gonna know what it is, but I will show it anyway. Let's get this thing fired up here. And everybody can say congratulations to Mr. Riddle because that is his oldest coin.
Awesome.
And,
Awesome.
and I love the fact that it's a 1776 one real.
Great find.
930. Look at that bad boy. That thing is in such good shape.
I'm wondering what the mint is on that. Can you zoom in a little bit? Yeah, I don't think that's Mexico City. That's
uh,
interesting.
I don't know. What
I
is
don't think
the
it is.
one real? What is the M dot
That's
I?
the assayer's initials, or MJ, I believe it might be. But to the left of that should be that's like a different city besides Mexico City.
Huh.
So let me go to my handy dandy index here and try to figure out what that is.
Yeah, looky there.
Yeah. Is that an MR?
It looks like an MR dash one real dash M dash
Or
I.
NR could be Bogota.
It's not N, it's an M for sure.
They are interlinked, though. I'm pretty sure they're interlinked, like the LIMAE monogram. It might be Bogota. That would be really cool if so. MI or MJ is definitely the assayer's initials. That's just cool because over here in the in North America, we typically find almost everything we find except for like Pistarines and Cobbs is from Mexico City Mint. So that's really cool.
Yeah, just look how nice it looks. I mean, like, gosh, just a few scratches on his face. I mean, that's beautiful. My half real looks so bad that I struggle to find 3 numbers of the date. That's how bad it looks.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, Randy, congratulations on that. Oh, yeah, there we go. That is an amazing find. I haven't had a real in a few years, so I need one. Almost as much as I need that gold coin. Let's see. Don has got his latest find. Let's see what he brought in. And like I said, you can show anything that's relic related tonight. You can show anything you want. So send them on in because it'll make the night go by really, really good if you send more pictures. But let's see. I will read this off a little bit here. Yeah, that's okay. Let's see. The vintage collectible is an International Order of the Rainbow Girls merit pin with multiple service bars. Let's see. You have to stop sharing the first one to put on the second one.
Huh. Wow.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Service, sir. Wonder why it has so many links in the pin that say the same thing.
I'm amazed that all of those were still intact in the ground. Like that's really cool.
Right. I might have been about half tempted to pass on that signal because that was probably really a banger. I probably would have thought it was a can. Doesn't want to zoom again. Anyway, that's a pretty awesome find, Don. I kind of think that would have been fun trying to figure out. You know, it looks like a ladder at first, and then all the service tags on it. But that's a really neat one. Yeah, you know, does the gold coin influence your research and where you decide you want to go dig? Do you ever pay it any mind like, hey, where's my best opportunity to find that gold coin?
No, and I'm really I mean, I think most people would be kind of put out with me because I'm just kind of like I find everything fun. Like I'm just as happy to dig 1940s, 50s stuff and find things that I haven't seen before as I am to dig early 20th century stuff, as I am to dig 1700 stuff. I mean, I just think it's all cool, and a site's a site, and I've learned over the years that if you start saying, oh, there's not going to be anything there, that site's too new, that's when you leave something really amazing in the ground. So I just I don't let it affect me, because if I make my whole site selection process about a gold coin, then that's probably gonna I'll probably find less than I would otherwise. But it's like a lot of the stuff I do is just scouting for spots, and sometimes there's specific spots, and sometimes I'm just wandering because I get a gut feeling. But the we were talking earlier about that intuition part of things. I mean, my best spot ever I stumbled into that was about 2013 or so, and it was a site like I have never ever seen and probably won't ever see again. But I literally just stumbled into it. I had to figure out what it was after the fact.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because that's the same for me. Is that one of my best sites ever? There was not supposed to be a homestead there, and I couldn't get over the fact that where it was located, like next to a creek and next to the river, that there wasn't a house there. So we walked out there on a hunch, and it ended up being one of my most productive sites I've ever had, and I still go out there and dig to this day, and still find something. So, old for relics, old 41 relics says, imagine each color is a different accommodation, and a person chose to add to the other instead of replacing each one. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that wearing that pin must have been some kind of a badge of honor for sure. They must have been awful proud of it. I can't imagine how you would lose something that big, though. Wow. Yeah, that just brings me to it. Is like, it make you, because at some point you kind of got to rethink, especially if you're like, hey, I don't want to go more than 15 minutes from the house today. Where am I going to go dig? You know, just go find an open field next to. I get it that even though you haven't seen anything there, but man, sometimes you got to have at least some research. It seems like that. I don't know. It just seems like you could be going out and digging in a place and not find a single thing all day too.
That's true. There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff where it's like I get out and I'm after a specific spot. There's spots where I'm just like, I'm in a good area. Even if I don't find the spot I'm after, then I can knock on the door, or hunt a yard if worst comes to worst. I don't really like yards anymore. I like being kind of out alone in a field, but I'll do a yard here and there. But it's like just I think the best advice I could give is to have different spots, different lengths of drive from your house, and have people that you can call on, property owners that you can say, hey, you mind if I get out there again this year? And that way, no matter how much time you have or don't have, you can still go dig. And the other thing I would say is, a lot of people will get a permission, they'll just sit on it, or there'll be other things will get in the way, or they'll say, well, I'll get to that next time. Well, in my experience, if you don't take advantage of a yes from a property owner, you're probably not going to go back and dig. So the best thing you can do is to go after it. After that person says yes, it gives them too much time to think about it, to maybe say, well, maybe not, to ask their cousin who hunts on the land, or whatever it is. So the best thing you can do is to get out there and build that relationship and get out there and dig.
Yeah, so this next one coming up, it was an 1870s mine site that had a railroad tied to it, now a farm field. This particular buckle came out of the ground, and definitely curious to what your ID is on this one. Here it comes. This one is Brad. This is Alpha Ninja, Charlie digging it back's buddy and partner. And check this one out.
Oh, wow. Okay, so obviously that is bent. I mean, I'm almost wondering if that's some sort of suspender buckle. If it's not, it doesn't look like it's heavy enough to be like a horse related
No,
find.
it was not.
Yeah, so I almost think it has to be some sort of suspender buckle or something for a very light sash or something like that. I mean, I don't think it would have held up to any sort of stern use, you know.
No, you're right. Wasn't exactly sure, but it was completely intact, just bent up. When you're looking at a buckle like that, it reminds me of some of the ones that are a little bit older. Um, what do you know about, like? I mean, I guess just the heaviness of it tells you a little bit more about what its use was. But does a certain shape or style give you any idea of time frame exactly?
Well, sometimes certain shapes do if they're a buckle type or shape that was used only during certain periods. But a lot of times, what the bar looks like, whether it's stamped or cast, this one looks like it's stamped. Whether the tongues are like a shape was separate, or whether it was brazed on, or whether it was held on with pins, like in the colonial era times, whether the shape was drilled through or not. And in this case, it looks like it's drawn wire. That's the buckle tongue. So I would imagine that's probably, I would say, late Victorian. I would guess mid to late Victorian. It could even be Georgian, but I would think it would be maybe maybe a little more ornate if it was late Victorian. So it might be even Grand Victorian.
Yeah, it was a really good find. It's I always look at the color of it to kind of guess the age of how long it's been in the ground, right? And it definitely seems like it's been there for quite some time. It was really pretty when it came out, but wasn't exactly sure because it didn't really remind me of the really older stuff. So I was thinking mid to late 1800s was my time
Uh-huh.
guess.
Yeah, I would say probably 1860s to 80s or so, somewhere around in there.
All right. Yeah, we got a couple more that came in. We'll just kind of fire through some of these really quickly. That was a good find. That was the day we were out there. That was at Florida Hunt 11. It was a pre-hunt that we went and hung out at. It was a good day. Let's see who's next. Oh, looky here. Miss Bree is next, and she's got a couple. She's got a necklace charm, and I got a pretty good idea on this one. So it's pretty common here. Let's get that shared up. But it looks to be really nice.
Oh, very cool.
I was sitting there trying to figure out. It does very much look silver.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like a key fob. I mean, it's obviously a great seal. The Either it wasn't cast with a lot of detail, or the detail was worn off. That's why I wanted to say maybe key fob. I wondered if it was engraved on the back of it or not. Is that the back?
I'm assuming so. Yeah. See, you can see through it.
Wow. Wow. So St. Christopher medallion. Wow. Okay, so that might be an actual pendant in that case. It's kind of interesting to combine the patriotic symbols with the religious elements. That's kind of cool.
Kind of threw me for a loop there.
Yeah, I expected to be kind of flat and blank on the back. So normally those are worn around the neck. I mean, a St. Christopher would probably be around the neck. So I'm going to revise my initial guess instead of a key fob and say that wear is probably from being around somebody's neck.
You know what? I think people are trying to trick bag you today.
They may be.
All right, let's see. We got a few more coming in that came in. We're gonna just go up on the row on next one on the row. Let's go. CDG detecting has sent. All right, I think I got an idea. We'll let you look.
Huh.
My
Well,
first thought was horse tack, and then but the way that it's made, where the tine goes across that, look how that looks.
yeah, that looks like some sort of a buckle tongue, and that, I don't think it's a terret. I don't think it's a Rains guide. I think it's some sort of a buckle with a tongue that looks like it's pretty old in the way it was attached, the way it's just folded over there. I mean, that may be even older than stuff that I'm familiar with. Or
It kind of
is
just
that
looks like
something from Dave Wise? Did he find it? Did he find it in Germany? Is it 500 years old or something? I mean, it kind of has that look to it.
it kind of has that, or maybe that just really crude, I need a belt buckle type of look, right? So let's see what I can come up with and make something on my own. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool. It's pretty large size too. I mean, that's not for a small strap, you know. So whatever that is, it's for something
Well,
serious.
looks like it's 40 grams.
Wow. Yeah, that's cast brass. That's really really wild.
It's pretty good, CDG.
Really cool.
Yeah, that's that was always the fun part, is that you go out and the first things that you find is, a lot of days you're like, what is that? What did I find today? And you have to go home and work to figure it out. Another reason that makes your book so special, because man, if I'd have had that book, I don't know, 10, 15, 10, well, at least 10 years ago, I would have probably not spent as much time doing research. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely will cut it down, and it's nice to have everything all in one spot, you know. So there were some relics. There were relics in there that I know that nobody else has ID'd before and put in a book for sure, but even just online. And there were relics that I found the IDs to after the book was published. So after we said no, we can't add anything else, I got Butch Holcomb to add an additional relics section at the end, and I just, at some point he said, no, we cannot add anything else to this book. We got to move on. So I have a list of about 150 more relics that I found the IDs to. That there's it's stuff that's not as commonly found as the stuff that's in there.
All right, Mr. John Donaldson, FLX Detectorist, has got one for you here.
That looks like a large cent that's been cut into some sort of a buckle. That is wild. I think it's a large cent. Yeah, it's the same design, like a draped bust.
That's cool. Let me see. There's more pictures with this. Let's see what
That
else.
is wild. That'd be a tiny little buckle. Goodness.
Dude,
That
that
is
is
so cool. And the crazy thing is, you can see there's a rust spot there at the bottom in that photo. Yeah, I bet you that's where somebody put a tongue. Somebody bent a piece of a nail or something around them. Like they made a buckle for something that they broke, maybe even a pinch, and then they made a tongue out of iron, and that just rusted away. And so there's a rust spot there. I bet you anything the tongue was there at the bottom.
You know how much time that would have took to make, honestly.
Gosh, yeah, but we forget that the amount of, like, back in those days, like, you couldn't get brass, you couldn't even get a mail order catalog. Like, our fledgling button industry was almost, like, we imported most of our buttons from overseas, probably 80-90% of our buttons. And people, I mean, these copper coins, these draped plus large cents, people here in the U.S. were melting down old ship boilers and other pieces of copper to get the copper, before the Michigan copper mines even opened. So, I mean, people forget that, we didn't have any mines for these precious metals here. We didn't have any silver mines in the U.S. until Comstock, really. So, I mean, this is, I can see it. I can see it. Spending all that time, working on a cent. It would be more expensive than a cent to buy a buckle, unless you wanted an iron buckle, and then in which case you would forge it yourself, or that could be done pretty inexpensively. But if you wanted a brass buckle or a copper buckle, there was no way to do that without, I mean, ordering one from England.
Okay,
Wait,
so yeah, Hi Ho Silver sent in a vintage fleur de lis brooch. uh, put this into a time frame. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get close, but it's a pin that Ed has found.
Wow.
Like the plating's worn off, and it looks to be, is that copper underneath?
Yeah, it looks like copper or brass.
It's awful red.
It does have a
And look,
safety catch. So that safety catch tells me it's 20th century, early 20th century, maybe earlier, even mid, maybe.
what's the little ring down here at the bottom?
I'm wondering about that. I'm wondering if it was a multi-part thing, like it had another attachment that said whatever it was. Like, a lot of times you'd have like a medal or a pin or a commemorative thing where the top would pin onto your garment, and then the bottom would be like either a ladder, like we saw, or something that hung down that said actually what it was or what it was for. That's the type of thing that actually, even though I hate to say it, Google Lens. It might be of help because there might be somebody somewhere that's posted that before, and that's such a good quality picture that that might be of help. Now you get into trouble with with any sort of AI ID, but I mean, I remember there was a pewter drinking cup, basically a pewter goblet or whatever that was found in a river here in the U.S. and it ID'd it as being like 8,000 years old or something crazy. So you never know what AI is going to spit out, but for something like this, you might have some luck.
Yeah, AI surely is figuring out ways to destroy the world, but it can't identify a pin. Got it.
Yeah, if we survive long enough, all our relics will be identified, right?
For sure. I think we got a couple more still in here that we can roll through.
Great.
These are the next group is from Rob, mainly dirt fishing. Wait a second. Let's see what this says. Oh, this is going to be love finding these, Rob, for sure. The question is what kind it is and where it came from.
It's definitely a smokehouse lock if it's the right size, and it's missing the dust cover.
Look at and I guess it maybe there's no dirt, but look at the wear on the shank. Is that or is that fact?
It could be that somebody
is it tapered?
Busted it off of there. It could be that the end of it's broken, or it's hard to know. I mean, the keyhole escutcheon is probably brass, and then it looks like the post up above is where where there was a brass dust cover that was broken off, and that would have had the manufacturing information. I want to say that some of those locks with that shape keyhole escutcheon, I want to say, let me just quickly turn through my relic book here. I want to say Davenport, Mallory and Company had some of those locks that had that shape of gosh, I don't know if I pictured one in here, but I want to say that was one of the purveyors of those. And then I want to say U.S. Lock and Hardware Company also made ones that had those shape of keyhole covers. Smokehouse lock. Yeah, I'll see if I can find it in here while we're talking.
Yeah, for sure. Let me flip over to the next picture. The next picture is everybody's favorite, little bells, little crotal bells.
Crotal or sleigh bells. Yep. Yep, really cool. And a lot of times they kind of used interchangeably. I see them in a lot of old catalogs as expressly sleigh bells.
Yep.
So that's what I tend to call them, just because that's what they called them, and so I feel like if it's good enough for the people who actually use those items back then, it's good enough for me.
Rob says it was a Crotobel spill, 7 in one hole. Where does the term Crotobel come from?
Uh, I want to say that's an old term from maybe the UK or someplace. I want to say it's something like, wasn't it neck or something? What does it mean? Now I'm going to look it up. Now I'm curious. Now I'm curious.
Moto, it's about that season. I'm going to do some mushroom hunting very, very, very soon. I think it's about time. Might be a little bit early yet, but I'm still going to go out.
Huh? Crotalum. It's from the Latin, which means rattle. So it refers to that little pellet that's inside of them. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is a nice spill, Rob. I think he's got another picture on here. Oh, look at that.
That's cool. Is that also Rob's?
Yeah, these are all his.
I wonder what the back of that's like. Rob, is that a one piece or a two piece button? Huh.
I don't think it's a two-piece. Is that? I guess it's a maple leaf.
Yeah, that's wild. It's almost like that beveled rim is almost like a watch case style, but it's not. It looks like it's a one piece button.
For sure. Another one that's really cool.
Yeah,
And
he
then
says one piece.
last, oh, no, we still got some more here. Wait. I guess this is still yours.
Well, that's a nice design. Yeah. Nice old flat button with a
Yeah, look
design
at the
in it.
design on that.
Mm-hmm.
And the color, that blue green, that aqua color looks like it's different.
Yeah, I see that on a lot of even like the flat buttons that don't have any design on them at all. I see that kind of green, like in the like 1790s buttons. It just seems like every time I find a button that's like 1790s or so, unless it's got plating on it, it's like that real green color to it.
Yeah, I love anything with the patina, man. It drives me crazy. Let's see. What's next? Roger's next. Dirt Devil detecting. Oh, looky there. There you go. That's the best part about coming on like this. You get to see stuff that other people have found, and it probably gets you kind of going a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Let's check out Dirt Devil detecting here. What do you think about that ring?
Whoa. Now that's wild.
For the as crude as it looks, the design around where it holds the stone looks really intricate.
Yeah, I could go several ways. I could go like maybe that's like some sort of more Eastern, or Indian or, type of a design or influence, or it could be like something that's pretty old that like there could even be something that's older than like 17s. I'm curious as to what the stone is in that thing.
Kind of
Maybe a paste jewel, but could be glass. Huh.
yeah, it definitely looks like they just rounded it, whatever it was. Oh,
Oh,
there's the other side of it.
Whoa, now that kind of changes things. That is weird. Is this a ring? I mean, is this ring sized or is it like big?
Oh, yeah, I can't tell. Roger, how big is that? Give us some perspective here.
Huh.
Fancy marble hunter.
Yeah, Bree is onto it. I was just thinking maybe something like that, maybe some sort of poison ring or something like that, where you would have a normal looking ring, but have a little vial there and you could just dump the poison in somebody's drink.
He says it's ring size. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Bree's right on that. That is really cool.
Yeah, like I said, leave it to what we see in here. That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good one, Roger.
Great find.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think that thing looks to be a couple 100 years old at least, right?
It certainly looks like it, but I wonder if it's just a Victorian one that had like some of those like Eastern influences, like they got into like, I don't know, Sanskrit and Indian things and Chinese influences and stuff like that, around that time. I mean, that's why we call China China, right? Is because that's where it came from.
Right. Yeah. So Brian B. Higgles is going to show you some decorative gold.
Yeah, snuff ring or opium ring. Yeah, could definitely see that. Now this was posted somewhere,
Yeah.
and I remember seeing it on some group and remember thinking, man, that's a really, really nice looking find. Isn't it like Tiffany and Company or some sort of nice maker?
Yeah, I see Tiffany on it right there.
Yep. Yep. I remember thinking, man, that is a pretty darn expensive. That was an expensive brooch. And I want to say I commented on it, but I don't remember what I wrote. But what I'm seeing is the way that pin's put together. Like I think it was just had a clasp on it. I think it had a C clasp, but not a safety catch. So it has to be early Tiffany. I would say it's probably like, I don't know, maybe like 1900, 1910.
Wow.
But definitely gold. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, Mr. Lodak, I do run the horizontal and the vertical because some people do like to watch on their phones, and sometimes it's a little easier for them to see. So I do run both. But thank you for sneaking back over here.
Yeah, they do. They did make lamps, but they also made fine jewelry and all kinds of metal work and things like that. So they made a bunch of stuff. Tiffany did. I mean,
Yeah,
they made spurs too. I mean, they made all kinds of stuff back into the 1800s. But a lot of the jewelry items and the stuff that we normally associate with Tiffany is like, late Victorian or Georgian. I mean, late Victorian or Edwardian, I should say. Yeah.
The Tiffany stamp on that is pretty crude too.
Yeah, it's really cool. Does that say 18K? Yeah, it looks really low. Yeah. I mean, it's one of these things where like I ran across a video today where they were literally melting down 1800s gold coins in a crucible. And it made me so furious, like I was just like, how dare you like do that to our history, but wow, 10 grams and a half. And this is the type of piece that I just like hope it never goes to be melted into a gold bar. It's just like, it's just too nice for that.
You would think that there's more value in the design and how pretty it is than there is in just melt value, right?
Yeah.
Or you would hope. Let's say you would hope, because I've seen people destroy a lot prettier things.
Yeah.
All right. Also, got one more here from Hi Ho. Let's see what he's got and then I will swing back over. Oh, well, I don't know what this is at all. Looks kind of costumey. Let's see. All right, gonna put you on the spot here, brother.
Uh-oh. Oh, wow. Yeah, it does look costumey. It's got those big features. You can tell it's plated, so it's base metal, but it's really nicely made. It's got that beadwork that almost looks like it's a little bit of like Anglo-Saxon-y influence, so it's like maybe that's like, I don't know, turn of the century. When was Sutton Hoo? I can't remember. But yeah, definitely a paste jewel. I mean, this type of stuff is like super well made, the further back you go. So it's like, I would expect to see that in like turn of the century to the 20s or so, where there's paste jewels and each one's set in an individual setting. I mean, that's really nicely made. I just really appreciate that stuff, the craftsmanship on it, just to be a costume piece,
Right. I mean, back in the day, I guess if you weren't going to do something right, don't do it at all, right?
Yep. And people wore these, part of the appeal of costume jewelry was that you could wear the piece. Thanks so much, B. Eagles. but you could wear the piece and nobody would know, because it was so well plated and well made, and it was so convincing looking that it looked like fine jewelry, like somebody would have had to have known your social status, in order to tell the difference. So that's part of the reason that these things were so well made.
Kind of reminds me of like the 20s dances that they went to, stuff that they with the real elaborate nightlife wear that they was putting on when they went to those dances and stuff like that you see in the movies. That's what it reminded me of.
Well, some of this costume jewelry actually, is fetching, what I consider to be crazy prices. But it's pieces. It's not pieces that are dug, of course. It's pieces that, so be on the lookout for like really nicely constructed costume jewelry at yard sales and thrift stores and spots like that. Because some of it is pretty pricey, especially if it's by a well-known maker, but it's like the low-end version of whatever they also sold in precious metal, or if it has the original boxes with it, or pouches or display cases, so pretty wild.
Yeah, absolutely. It is fun though. You said it earlier is that if you go into even digging early 1900 stuff, it's like that's kind of when manufacturing started changing and things were sometimes a little bit, maybe I don't even want to say better made, but that early 1900s craftsmanship was pretty solid because they were fine tuning manufacturing and things were a little bit better put together. The stuff that we found before that was awful kind of crude in a way. So finding that stuff is really neat. I do like hunting for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool, and you know that every bit of that stuff, whether it was really made out of precious metal or whether it was just costume, that all represents disposable income. That's stuff that people bought, because they wanted to look nice. It's stuff that they valued and treasured, enough to take care of it. And there's a lot of costume jewelry that gets passed along in families, old costume jewelry. So there's a certain percentage of that ends up in the ground, but it's a lot smaller percentage than you would think. So I think that's all really cool finds.
I know we're getting close to the end here today because anybody that wants to throw anything in last minute, we'll probably do a few more today. But I guess the question that as hobbyists and fanatics for this particular hobby, where do you see the hobby in 5 to 10 years? Where do you see I mean, what do you think the last frontier of good finds is going to be, or what do you think is going to emerge as something good to find in the future?
Well, I think that there's a lot of sites that people haven't hit because they don't think that there's going to be anything really old there. And I think that eventually we're going to see people hitting those types of spots. I have some ideas about ways that I might gain an edge in a very heavily detected part of the country. I'll probably keep those ideas to myself, but I think that the hobby is going to change pretty dramatically. What I hope to see is I really hope to see that some of our detector manufacturers will keep making some good pulse induction machines for use at the beach. And part of that is because we're in a situation where a lot of people are using VLFs at the beach. People are using Equinoxes, multi-frequency machines at the beach, Deus. And those are good machines and they're solid machines, but there's nothing like a pulse induction at the beach. And so, pulse induction that is waterproofed, that's salt capable. I mean, that's kind of an area that seems to be lagging behind it because everybody wants to make the ultimate waterproof everything machine. And so those specific tools that are really, really useful in spots, in specific spots, I just hope we don't lose that in our hobby.
Yeah, PI. Man, I tell you what, PI is really, really good for lower conductive metals too.
Mhm.
A PI machine will hammer out some nickels at an incredible depth. I really just haven't been able to really afford one, but I did buy the Tarsace MDT 8000, where he combined pulse induction with VLF, capabilities. And I noticed that that machine favors low tones as well, lower tones. It's been a really good. It's been a really good machine. I enjoy it as well. I don't swing it as much anymore, but there is times where I think about taking it out. What do you think about? What do you think about like the differences between manufacturers, and then what do you think some of the what do you swing primarily, by the way?
I mainly swing a Fisher, and I have for a long time. And I started on a 1266 right after I was. I mean, I really started on a Radio Shack detector, and then a compass. So that tells you how far back, with the analog meter. Um, but I think we tend to be in a very kind of hype filled environment, and I think that in some situations, any tool is pretty good. In a lot of situations, I would say any tool is pretty good. Unless you have really mineralized soil or a really specific environment that's going to keep some sort of a machine or some brand or some model from working. And so I think we tend to, because we spend a lot on our hobby, with what we buy and what we swing. And I think we tend to overestimate the capabilities. But the best detector, I'll tell you what the best detector ever is. The best detector ever is the one that you use to dig. And as far as I know, everything that's dug in this whole world, in this hobby forever, has only been dug. Every single item has only been dug by one machine. So there's no way to say, could we test this again? What are you going to do? Stick it back in the ground and try to find it again? You'll never get it back in the ground the same way. So I think we tend to overestimate our equipment, but ultimately we can only swing one detector, and the best detector is going to be your research, your abilities, your intuitions, your site selection. So I think that's a lot of it.
Qbot sent in a very, very wiped green coin. Good luck.
Oh, interesting. What size is this? Is this like a slug? Is this a coin slug?
I'm not really sure.
What's it made of? How big is it?
It's got to be copper, right?
Got to be copper. Copper or brass. Copper alloy of some sort. Just that little divot made me think it was maybe maybe some sort of a slug from like a payphone. I do have payphone tokens in my book. It's kind of an interesting phenomenon where they'd issue the tokens because they didn't want anybody to put a slug in, you know. So
yeah, it looks to be in really good physical shape, but I can't see any markings on it, which is kind of surprising. Yeah. And that's why I wasn't sure if it's actually a coin.
Yeah, you would think there'd be at least some sort of faint something there.
I can't really see anything.
One of the things that I'm missing too is any sort of a rim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it's so plain, because there was never anything on it.
It could be.
Let's see what else we got. Jeff had sent one in really quick. Oh, this one's gonna be good. There you go.
Nice snake buckle.
Snake
Love
buckle.
it. Love it. So I found just the missing part in a field. I've never found the snake portion with the other side. So they were made in such a way that, as you can see, that little loop won't fit between the snake's beak and its body on that side. But on the other side, there was just enough space to be able to hook it through. And so I found the other side, which is an identical loop without the snake portion. So that's as far as I've come to getting a snake buckle in all these years. Really great find.
I would love the snake head. Doesn't remind me of a snake at all, though.
Yeah, it's like a duck head or something.
Yeah. And
There's
then
actually
over,
a book. I think there's a whole book on these snake buckles, and I can't remember who wrote it. I want to say it was somebody that was digging in a maybe a rag mill site or something where they found a whole bunch of them.
I'd love to find one.
Yeah, I'd love
Just,
to find the snake portion. I'm still missing it.
uh, that's the beauty of this hobby is that you don't know what's going to come out of the ground next, and I think that's what keeps everybody interested and intrigued for this amount of time. Thanks for the photo, Jeff. You just made me want to go dig a snake buckle really really bad. Like,
That's an
but
awesome find.
all right, if we don't have any more today, everybody please drop your thank yous to Buckleboy in the chat. If anybody is interested in Buckleboy's Relics identification book, uh, hit him up. Which way is the easiest way to get a hold of you for that?
Now, best thing is to email me at buckleboymetaldetecting@gmail.com.
There you go. And I think if I got it correctly, the book is $79 plus shipping, which makes it $89 anywhere in the continental U.S. Or Virgin Islands. I think he said it goes out there for about the same price. Also, just from our recent discussion, I think I'm going to fire that up there and I'm going to put it on the westshorehobbies.com just to give everybody something else to look at on there since I took off some stuff. We'll put the book on there, and if anybody's interested, it'll be listed there at some point as well. Anybody else got any last minute questions or anything that they want to say before we roll out of here tonight? Thank you, Buckleboy. Buy the book. It's amazing. It's probably one of the best relic books I've ever seen, for sure. Yes, sir, Mr. Higgles. I'll see you Saturday, Brian. Go dig some holes.
Awesome.
Mr. Nick, hello. Yeah, and Angie says check out westshorehobbies.com. Thank you, Angie. I appreciate you. But as it goes, it's almost quarter after, and we are going to call it a day. Keep on the lookout for more new guests coming in over the next couple of weeks, and a few other items that I got planned out. And I will see you guys next time. And by the way, I apologize for the outro. It goes to my sports channel. Thank you both.
Is it Shark Time?
Is it what?
Is it Shark Time?
It is Shark Time. We made that up for when we started the sports channel, and I love it. So it's just going to stay there because I don't have an outro video. But Bree, thank you very much for the super chat. Highly recommend Buckleboy's book. I love it. I look at it every single week for sure. But everybody, you've been awesome tonight. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for sending in your finds, and we'll see you next time.